imagine the scenario. And, if you're part of the FIRE community, this might hit a little too close to home. You've done all the work. I mean, you spent years grinding, saving every single spare penny, maybe sticking to that 4% rule like it's gospel.
Sacrificing weekends, saying no to things constantly, all for a number.
Exactly. And then, one ordinary Tuesday morning, you log into your brokerage account and you see it. 7 figures, you hit your first $1 million milestone.
You expected fireworks, didn't you?
Totally.
You thought the clouds would part, the chains of financial anxiety that have, defined your entire adult life would just shatter.
A feeling of absolute blissful freedom. Finally.
The mental finish line.
But the fanfare was silent. The only sound was like the clicking of your keyboard as you check the balance. Again, just to be sure.
Right.
Maybe you let yourself have a small celebration like a $9 coffee instead of your usual. But even as you're sipping it, that deep cold anxiety is still there. You still feel broke.
You feel that pinch of guilt over the smallest thing.
It's the ultimate financial paradox, isn't it? We're talking about someone with 7 figures in the bank who is, by any objective measure, completely secure.
And yet they're still making every menu choice based on cost or feeling genuine stress over an $8 purchase. This is where the math problem ends.
And the psychology problem takes over completely. They expected freedom, but what they got was this high-stakes, pervasive fear they just couldn't name.
Which is why today we're doing a real deep dive into that hidden psychological trap, the one that can turn financial freedom into a kind of mental prison. We call it the Abundance-Scarcity Cycle.
Yeah, we need to dissect not just the numbers, but the feelings they create.
Our mission today is to pull back the curtain on this invisible treadmill that even the most disciplined savers are running on.
Yeah.
We want to figure out the mechanism that keeps your emotional well-being stuck, no matter how high your net worth climbs.
What is that invisible force that keeps moving the goalposts?
Welcome to today's podcast on Project FIRE, where we help you pursue financial independence wisely, focusing not just on accumulation, but on the emotional balance that ensures you don't let life pass you by.
To really get why $1 million can still feel like scarcity, we have to start with a huge concept in behavioral psychology, the hedonic treadmill, or hedonic adaptation.
Right, this idea from the 1970s, it's so simple, but it's incredibly powerful. It's this observation that we humans we're wired to return to a stable baseline level of happiness.
Exactly. Regardless of what happens to us, good or bad.
The treadmill analogy is just perfect for it, isn't it?
It really is. You can run incredibly hard, you can hit massive goals, you win the race to $1 million, you get the huge promotion, but your brain is built for rapid normalization.
So you just end up right back where you started emotionally.
Yeah.
At your happiness set point.
And that set point is often exactly the same as it was before the big event ever happened.
So what's the engine here? What's driving this treadmill? It's the mechanism of rising expectations. As your income rises, as your success rises, your desires and expectations, they rise right along with it, in perfect tandem.
So that gap, the space between what you have and what you feel you need to be satisfied, it never actually closes.
Never. Every new achievement, every new peak just becomes the new normal. And that prevents any kind of permanent, sustained gain in happiness.
We see this in those classic studies, right? The ones that looked at people at extreme ends of the spectrum.
Yeah, the lottery winners versus people who'd had paralyzing accidents. I mean, your gut tells you one group should be ecstatic forever and the other should be miserable forever.
But that's not what they found at all.
Not in the long run. After that initial, intense shock wore off, the euphoria or the despair, both groups tended to drift back surprisingly close to their baseline happiness level.
Mm-hmm.
The mind is just incredible at normalizing.
Now, I know later research has kind of softened that a bit. It shows those set points aren't completely rigid, and it matters how you use your money.
Right, buying experiences versus things.
Yeah.
But the core principle of adaptation, it's undeniable. Our minds recalibrate and they do it fast.
And this explains perfectly why hitting that $1 million FIRE goal can feel so anticlimactic.
It's the same mechanism. Your mind treats that $1 million like it would a new car. It adapts. That number, which once felt like this impossible mountain, it just becomes your new baseline for security.
So then the goalposts shift. The anxiety doesn't go away. It just changes its focus.
Exactly. It's no longer, how do I get to $1 million? It becomes, what if I lose it all?
Or now I actually need $2 million to be truly safe because $1 million isn't enough of a buffer.
This is a perfect example of what researchers call abundance denial. These are people who are objectively wealthy, But they construct these elaborate reasons for why they still feel deprived or insecure.
They deny the reality of their abundance so they can mentally justify staying on that treadmill, prioritizing saving over actually living.
You see this with executives who make 7 figures. They anchor their whole self-worth to their peak net worth. So if the market dips 10%, which is totally normal,
They don't see the millions they still have. They only see the loss from their personal high score.
and that dip feels like failure. It drives this intense scarcity anxiety, even though their actual real-life security hasn't changed at all. The motivation shifts from building wealth to preserving it, but the feeling inside,
It doesn't move an inch.
it's a frustrating chase because the high is so transient. The moment you get it, your mind is already neutralizing the game.
Okay, wait, so if this adaptation is so powerful, does that mean the entire premise of FIRE, this idea of achieving permanent financial freedom, is, like, fundamentally flawed?
That is the critical question. And the answer is a bit subtle. We don't adapt to freedom in the same way we adapt to stuff.
Okay.
What we adapt to quickly is the financial number and the material things it buys. Where we get lasting satisfaction is when we use that wealth to increase our autonomy, our sense of control.
Right.
We don't adapt to that nearly as quickly.
So the flaw isn't FIRE itself. It's the expectation that the dollar amount alone is going to solve the emotional problem.
Precisely. The focus has to shift from the net worth total to the quality of life that wealth supports. And to do that, we have to understand when money actually stops buying day-to-day happiness.
Okay, so let's get into the measurements of well-being, because this is where it gets really interesting.
Right. So modern well-being research splits this whole idea into 2 distinct categories. Understanding this split is key to knowing why, say, $150,000 a year doesn't feel twice as good as $75,000.
The first one is emotional well-being. This is basically how you feel day to day.
Yeah, experienced happiness. It's the quality of your everyday life, the frequency of joy, contentment, affection, balanced against stress, sadness, anger.
And the second one is life evaluation.
This is your considered judgment. When you stop and think about your life, how do you rate it? It's measured with questions like, how successful is your life? Or that ladder scale, from worst possible life to best possible life.
So one is feeling, the other is thinking.
Perfect way to put it. And they correlate differently with income. High income definitely buys you higher life evaluation. People who earn more consistently rate their lives as more successful. And that keeps rising even way above $120,000 a year.
And this is the big but, right?
This is the critical finding that really challenges the whole chase for more and more income. Emotional well-being. It completely satiates. It hits a plateau.
And that plateau, based on the work by Kahneman and Deaton, is somewhere around $75,000 per year in the U.S.
The finding was stark. Beyond that $75,000 threshold, they found virtually no measurable improvement in people's daily happiness, their enjoyment, or, and this is crucial, any reduction in stress and worry.
So the daily emotional roller coaster is basically the same whether it makes $75,000 to $500,000.
Exactly.
Okay, I have to challenge that number a little bit. I mean, $75,000 in 2024 does not buy the same peace of mind in Manhattan as it does in, like, rural Tennessee.
You are absolutely right to question that, and you're hitting on a key nuance. The figure is an average from the time of the study. Subsequent research shows the satiation point adjusts for inflation and absolutely for local cost of living.
So in a big city, it might be closer to what, $100,000, maybe $120,000 today?
That's a reasonable estimate. But the core principle is what's so robust. There is a plateau. Whether it's $75K or $120K, there's a point where more income stops translating into more daily joy.
Okay, that makes more sense. So let's tie this back to a FIRE and the 4% rule. To get $75,000 a year in income, you need a portfolio of about $1.875 million.
Precisely. So if you've hit $1 million, you're not quite at that income level for maximum daily emotional peace, but you're getting very close.
And this is where the risk for the high-income earner comes in. They can succeed wildly at optimizing for life evaluation, that big net worth number, but completely neglect their emotional well-being.
They feel satisfied with their life when they think about the number, but they aren't experiencing more joy in their daily life.
Because above that income threshold, the problems money can solve are replaced by problems it can't.
Exactly. Your daily emotional life is now constrained by the quality of your relationships, your health, chronic stress, loneliness. You can feel successful about your life while feeling terrible in your life.
And that brings up the flip side, right? Why being below that threshold is so damaging.
Yes. Below that satiation point, not only is your life evaluation low, but low income makes the emotional pain of life's normal misfortunes so much worse.
Like a toothache. For someone with a good income, it's an inconvenience. For someone below that threshold, it's a potential catastrophe.
It's a perfect example. It can lead to prolonged pain, anxiety, just a total breakdown of your ability to manage a basic life event. The research showed this vividly. The emotional pain from something as simple as a headache was way worse for the lowest income group.
So money matters immensely, but only up to a point. After that, you're mostly just buying status and extreme security, not the daily joy you think you're chasing.
Which brings us to the next big question. If you have the money, if you're past that threshold, why do you still operate from a place of anxiety?
Yeah, why do people who are objectively secure still live with this feeling of deprivation?
This is the scarcity mindset, and it's fundamentally a belief system. It's the deep-seated conviction that there's never enough. Never enough money, never enough time, never enough opportunity.
And the key thing is, that belief often has no connection to your actual financial reality.
None. It brings us right back to our millionaire who feels guilty buying a new pair of shoes. The funds are there, the security is real, but they live with this constant low-grade fear of impending disaster.
Where does that come from?
It's often rooted in early life wounds or trauma, growing up in genuine poverty or with extreme frugality constantly drilled into you, or seeing your parents fight about money all the time.
It sends the subconscious message that financial hardship is always just around the corner.
Or it can be an adult trauma, a sudden business failure, a devastating job loss. When that happens, your core sense of security is just shattered. And years later, it's that raw, irrational anxiety that's still making your decisions.
And this scarcity mindset, it doesn't just feel bad, it actually impacts your ability to think clearly.
It has a measurable, concrete impact. Researchers call it the bandwidth tax.
This is the study about the car repair, right?
Yes, it's fascinating. They found that just by asking low-income people to think through an unexpected $3,000 car repair, it eroded their cognitive performance by an amount equivalent to losing about 14 IQ points.
Wow, 14 points. That's huge. That's more than losing a full night's sleep.
It's a massive functional impairment. Scarcity captures your mind. It focuses all of its processing power on the immediate emergency. And that leaves almost no mental bandwidth for long-term planning, self-control, or complex problem solving.
So you're just putting out fires.
Constantly. This is why a high-interest payday loan, which seems so irrational to an outsider, makes perfect sense to someone under that bandwidth tax. They need cash now. They're too depleted to focus on the long-term fees. They're surviving, not planning.
So let's connect this back to our audience. The disciplined, high-earning saver, how does this show up for them?
It manifests as the obsessive saver trap. Discipline is essential for FIRE, of course, but constant, obsessive deprivation. It makes the present hardly worth living.
You die with the most money, but the least fulfilling life.
The fear of losing what you have, that constant low-level financial panic, it pushes secure people into irrational decisions. We see people with a huge portfolio generating a safe income, but they're still hoarding $100,000 in a savings account, terrified to invest it.
They avoid negotiating a raise, or they put off critical maintenance on their car or their house because the pain of seeing that checking account balance go down is just too much.
They hit their FIRE number, but they refuse to pull the trigger on the early retirement, because psychologically they're still operating as if they're broke.
So smart financial planning prepares for the future from a place of confidence.
Well, scarcity lives the entire present from a defensive crouch, constantly preparing for a worst-case scenario that may never happen.
You have to feel safe enough to enjoy your money along the way. You know, if these insights are helping you think about achieving not just financial freedom, but real mental freedom, take a moment right now to subscribe to Project FIRE, hit that like button, and ring the bell icon. Your support helps us dive deeper into these psychological hurdles that block true independence.
So we've talked about why money's happiness affects plateaus and how scarcity taxes your mind. But what happens when you hit true affluence? I mean, the kind of wealth where scarcity seems mathematically impossible. Do those deep-seated fears just disappear?
I have a feeling the answer is no.
The answer is a resounding no, because money just introduces a whole new set of anxieties.
You know, for most people, wealth seems like this ultimate shield. We assume that once you hit a certain net worth, all your problems are solved.
Right. And because society believes that when affluent people struggle emotionally, they face this profound disbelief, judgment even.
What do you have to complain about? You can afford to fix anything.
Exactly. And that invalidation forces their pain to fester in silence. It leads to this intense isolation.
They learn pretty quickly to just keep quiet about it. You can be crying into a very nice pillow in a mansion, but the tears are just as real.
And that lack of external validation makes the pain even more corrosive. So financial therapists who work with the ultra-high net worth, they consistently find 3 primary fears that just dominate their clients' thoughts.
And the number one fear? It's the fear of losing it all.
All of it. Not just a market correction. It's the existential dread of losing most or all of it and being forced back into the struggle they spent their lives trying to escape.
It's an irrational fear in terms of probability, but it feels completely real.
Because their identity is so tied to their financial stability.
Yeah.
If they built it, losing it means they're a failure. If they inherited it, losing it means they failed their family legacy.
Okay, so that's fear number 1. What's number 2?
The fear of losing their current income. By the time they're truly affluent, they've built this complex lifestyle. Multiple homes, private schools, staff. It's a financial machine.
And that machine needs constant high-level feeding.
Precisely. So any interruption to that income stream, a business downturn, losing their earning capacity, it has these severe psycho-emotional consequences. It's about status, family expectations, self-esteem. They're in a golden cage.
And the third fear?
The single devastating event. It's this nagging feeling that they're just 1 or 2 catastrophes away from total financial ruin.
Like what? A nasty divorce.
The divorce, a major lawsuit, business failure, a capital market meltdown, a personal health crisis. The issue isn't any one of those things specifically. It's the lack of predictability, the not knowing when or how it might strike that drives this constant background anxiety.
Wow. And beyond those financial threats, wealth itself can become a barrier to just human connection.
The isolation factor is enormous. They struggle profoundly with trust. They're constantly wondering, does this person like me or what I can do for them?
Living with that kind of suspicion must make genuine connection almost impossible.
It really does. And then there's the curated life. Private drivers, exclusive clubs, gated communities. It sounds like freedom, but it creates a filtered life.
Where authenticity and spontaneity just get lost. It's an emotional bubble.
And bubbles are lonely places.
Yeah.
Then there's the emotional drift. When you don't need to work to survive, your old goals can feel hollow. So they chase novelty, expensive hobbies, anything to feel something real.
And for those who came from humble beginnings, there's the guilt.
Deep, corrosive guilt and shame. They're so aware of the inequality, it creates this internal split where one part enjoys the comfort and another part feels deep shame for having it.
And finally, I guess, is the realization that money just can't fix everything.
That's the hardest pill to swallow. It can't undo childhood trauma. It can't heal broken relationships. They achieve this massive success only to find the core emotional issues they were running from are still right there, waiting for them. The success feels hollow.
Okay, this is heavy. If this cycle is so pervasive, how do we, as people pursuing FIRE, actually break free? How do we get to mental freedom?
It has to be a process of integrating the financial discipline with psychological awareness. And the first resource to talk about is financial therapy.
This is a pretty new field, right?
Relatively. It blends traditional financial planning with counseling and therapy techniques. A certified financial therapist moves beyond just the numbers. They ask about your anxiety, your family history with money, your deepest fears.
They help you align your financial strategy with your core values, not just a target number.
Exactly. They help you dissect those behavioral challenges, like the obsessive saver trap. The therapist is less the solution and more of a trusted guide who helps you see your own blind spots.
So they help you connect your current financial reality to your past emotional wounds.
That's the goal. And beyond professional health, there are concrete things we can all do to start chipping away at that scarcity mentality.
Yeah.
The first one is maybe the hardest.
Which is?
Sit with the feelings. Acknowledge that the scarcity mindset comes from real trauma, a time of genuine loss. Don't just dismiss the anxiety as irrational. Honor its source.
Radical acceptance.
That's the first step to releasing its control over you. Next, you have to do a ruthless reality check.
Pull up the balance sheet.
Pull it all up. Your net worth, your income, your emergency funds, and ask yourself, is this fear actually warranted by the math right now?
And if the picture is good?
You challenge the anxiety directly. You say out loud, the math proves I am safe. This is just a memory talking. If the picture is not good, you don't panic. You create a small, logical, achievable plan. Save $50 a month. Something to regain a sense of control.
We also have to challenge those old beliefs, right?
Yeah.
Money scripts we grew up with.
Absolutely. If you grew up poor, maybe you believe you always have to buy the cheapest possible item. Does that belief still serve you now that you're financially secure?
Probably not. That extra $30 a month on something that enhances your life, it's not going to change your fire date in any meaningful way.
But it will change your daily happiness. And finally, we advocate for what's called the ambivalent mindset.
Which is not just swinging to the other extreme like, YOLO, the money will just show up.
Exactly. That's just as damaging. The ambivalent mindset rejects both extremes. It integrates discipline with trust. The mantra is, prepare diligently for the worst, but trust things will ultimately work out.
It's a middle ground. It lets you keep your planning and your safety nets, but it chips away at the chronic anxiety that stops you from enjoying the present.
Breaking this cycle isn't just about financial independence. It's about mental independence. The freedom to make conscious choices, not just react out of old fears.
So if we accept all this, that money's happiness effect plateaus, that even $1 million doesn't cure anxiety, where do we put our focus? What really drives long-term well-being after you hit your fire number?
The research is really clear on this. The factors that sustain well-being over time have almost nothing to do with the total dollar amount.
And the first one is about control.
A strong sense of internal locus of control. It's the feeling that you, not external forces, control your own destiny. It's one of the biggest predictors of well-being.
And that can be scary for an early retiree, right? If your whole sense of control was tied to your job.
It can be terrifying. You have to actively replace that external structure with internal choices, purposeful projects, learning, physical goals to maintain that high well-being.
The second factor is about the kinds of goals we pursue.
Yes, studies show that adopting non-zero-sum goals, things that enrich your relationships in society, like altruism, community work, family, they statistically increase your well-being.
And the flip side of that is pretty sobering for anyone deep in the accumulation phase.
It is. Attaching high importance to zero-sum goals, the chase for career success, wealth, social status, that has a statistically significant negative impact on overall well-being.
So the competitive chase, trying to out-earn your peers or have a bigger house, it's fundamentally corrosive to happiness.
It actively works against fulfillment. Early retirement is the perfect time to pivot entirely to those non-zero-sum goals.
There was that one piece of counter-evidence you mentioned that I found just mind-blowing.
Oh, the study of indigenous communities.
Yeah.
They surveyed people in communities with extremely low monetary income, like less than $1,000 a year.
And what they found was astonishing.
These communities reported an average life satisfaction score of 6.8 out of 10. That is slightly better than the average score for all high-income OECD countries, which is 6.7.
That one data point proves that wealth, as we measure it, is not fundamentally required for humans to lead happy, satisfied lives.
It shows that life satisfaction is built on community, on connection, on purpose, not just on accumulation.
This tension, this insecurity, despite having enough, it really brings us to a modern phenomenon, especially with younger generations. This idea of money dysmorphia.
It's a perfect term for it. A distorted, deeply insecure view of your own finances, where you feel inadequate no matter what the reality is. Surveys show almost half of Gen Z and millennials report feeling this.
It's like keeping up with the Joneses on steroids.
Completely. You're bombarded with images of inaccessible luxury on social media, private jets, lavish lifestyles, while at the same time, you're getting a constant stream of doom and gloom news about debt and inflation.
That constant dissonance just has to be exhausting.
It is. It exacerbates every insecurity. Even if you're saving and making good progress, you're comparing your base camp to someone else's summit. The only solution has to be internal, rejecting the comparison and focusing on those true drivers: control, community, and purpose.
For everyone pursuing FIRE, I think the message is that $1 million net worth isn't the finish line.
It's the secure base camp you've built. It gives you the mental bandwidth to start climbing the real mountain, defining and achieving a life of purpose and lasting daily joy.
We started today by dissecting that paradox of feeling broke with $1 million in the bank. We learned that the cost of wealth is so often psychological. The hedonic treadmill, the scarcity mindset, the hidden fears. They can turn security into a new kind of prison.
The real measure of success, we discovered, isn't the number in the account. It's the intentionality of how you live and, most importantly, the quality of your daily emotional life. Are we striving for high life evaluation, a big number, or for high emotional well-being, a feeling of daily contentment?
So if that income threshold buys all the happiness money can afford, and if non-monetary goals are what truly sustain us, then the final hurdle to financial independence isn't about how much you accumulate.
The real challenge is stopping the chase long enough to define and live your life's true purpose. What percentage of your finite energy today is still dedicated to chasing a number that promises satisfaction, but may only deliver more anxiety?
The balance between discipline and enjoyment, between preparing for the worst and trusting things will work out. It's not a calculation you make once. It's a lifelong commitment to wisdom and a choice you have to consciously make every single day.